It's interesting you mentioned SBR. So we've got a few clients now that have actually been through the SBR
Yeah,
process, but you still have a
no,
debt. So the SBR doesn't make it all go away.
yeah,
So you still have a debt at the end of the SBR. And where we're now getting contacted is that the arrangements that were made for that debt are not feasible. And so we're coming on board to renegotiate. I'll call it the residual debt, but the debt that is left to get that into a more affordable payment plan so that they can manage cash flow, so that they can continue to flourish. Because it hasn't quite been the magic pill that I think some people thought it would be. And as you said, there's so much more to it when you're running a business. This fixed a portion of it, but then there is advice and help that's still needed as they continue to trade.
bingo. And what tends to happen is, and I love what you showed there in terms of, the SBR, it is a plan. It doesn't just go away and things are back to what it was. You still have to deliver the plan.
Yeah.
But then once they deliver the plan, then it's right, well, are they just going to keep doing what they did before to get them in the same position, or are they going to look at it differently? And having a conversation with you around, well, what can you do differently to ensure that you're not going to end up using the ATO as a bank, because that's not what the ATO do, because they are now conscious of it, as opposed to, yeah, we'll get you money at some point. Now they're going,
Yeah.
no, we've done that. Now it's about how do we look forward and say, how do we have a plan in place to allow us to ensure that you don't end up back in the insolvency turnaround space because you've been there.
Yep.
How do we help you proactively stay out of it?
And I think you've talked about mind shift and mind space quite a bit. And I think that's also important with understanding the ATO and their collections at the moment. So it's all well and good to say, well, 12 months ago or 2 years ago, or this is what I used to do. That's all lovely. And I think a lot in our lives, we would wish that we could be back to what we used to do. But there has been a mind shift within the ATO of collection. Absolutely. There's even new laws, new legislation specifically that have been put in place, including the non-deductibility of interest and penalties, to change the mind shift that the ATO aren't a cheap small business bank. They're not a small business bank. They're not there to lend, and there is collection activity if you don't pay. And that is a huge mind shift for both the ATO, but also for business owners. And it doesn't help anymore by just saying, well, we didn't used to do this, so why do we have to do it now? We've got a particular client that would often lodge a BAS, would then put that BAS into that debt, into a payment plan. Then they would wait until the next BAS was due. Then they would lodge that BAS but not pay it, which would default the payment plan. And then they would just ring up and say to the ATO, can you please just roll that BAS in? And every 3 months that a new BAS became due, they would just cancel or default the old plan, and then they would roll it in. That's a perfect example of a mind shift of the ATO. And clients have said, but
Yeah.
I've always done, this particular client said, I've always done this, but it doesn't work now. That ATO will
Yeah.
not accept you to continue to roll BASs, and they won't accept that you to continue to default on plans and give you new plans.
That's right. I mean, we have a saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. So if that's what they've always done, historically it's worked, but the tax office now think differently. It won't continue to work. So we find we do 12-month cash forecast. We now include a cash flow item on that, because most business owners we saw, they would look at their profit and loss and go, oh yeah, I've got 200 grand, I'm sweet. But they would have 150 grand worth of ATO debt that was needing to be paid, but that wasn't showing up in any conversation, and they thought their business was flying, but it wasn't. They were losing money because they had this outstanding debt. Now, referring them to you gives them an opportunity to understand, A, is there any of that that can be reduced or written off, and B, how do we get it to a point where we may be able to have it flexed to match their cash flow or whatever. But without a specialist to do that, an accountant's not going to do it. Legal, probably not. They're going to go, no, outside of our band, let's have a chat to Olga. Anyone else, it's like that is a specialist skill set that allows them to get a better outcome, which means that their business can continue to operate or operate in a way that's more certain and more relative to, they might be a seasonal business.
I do think it is that we keep going back to specialists and better outcomes. So I actually did a MFAA trade show conference yesterday, and I was talking to lots of people, and people said, well, we can get a payment plan. We can get 6 months. I'm like, well, yes, a lot of people can get payment plans, but they're horrible. They're terrible. They're not specialised. They don't meet the client's needs. So again, with what you do, with what we do, with what so many brokers do, it's about that specialised help that's going to get the client the best outcome for the best chance of success to recover from not bad business, but to recover whatever's happened that's outside of their control to get back on track and back in the positive cash flow.